It's 9 p.m. You told yourself you'd spend an hour learning that new skill. The one that could change your career. But your phone is right there. You open it, just for a second, and suddenly it's 11 p.m. The infinite scroll 1. Again. Sound familiar? You're not lazy. You're not undisciplined. You're just fighting a battle against the most sophisticated attention engineering in human history. Social media apps are designed by teams of psychologists to be addictive. But what if we could steal their secrets? What if we could use their own weapons against them? By the end of this video, you'll have a step-by-step blueprint to re-engineer your habits. We're going to make the process of learning feel as compelling, as rewarding, and yes, as addictive as scrolling through your feed. This isn't about willpower, it's about brain science. So, what will you need? Not much. A willingness to try a few simple experiments, and maybe a notebook. Our goal is to build a positive addiction loop for learning. We'll break it down into 4 critical parts, the same 4 parts that social media giants use to keep you hooked. We're going to deconstruct the habit loop: cue, craving, response, and reward. First, we'll see how social media uses it to capture your attention. Then, step by step, we'll build our own loop, one that serves your goals, not a tech company's. Let's start by understanding the enemy. The social media habit loop is ruthlessly efficient. The cue is your phone buzzing. The craving is the fear of missing out or just boredom. The response is opening the app. And the reward? A little hit of dopamine from a new like, a funny video, or an interesting post. This loop runs dozens, even hundreds of times a day. It carves deep neurological pathways in your brain. It becomes automatic. Our job isn't to fight this powerful system head-on with sheer willpower. That's a losing battle. Our job is to build a better, more satisfying loop right next to it. Okay, so let's begin. Step 1. Engineer your cues. A cue is a trigger that tells your brain to go into automatic mode and which habit to use. For social media, the cues are obvious. Notifications, the red dot on an icon, or even just the time of day. We need to create our own. The most powerful cues are environmental. So let's design our environment for success. If Alex wants to learn coding, what's the first thing he should do? He should make the cue impossible to miss. He could leave his coding textbook open on his desk, right where his laptop usually goes. He could also use a technique called habit stacking. The formula is, after current habit, I will new habit. For Alex, it could be, after I finish my dinner, I will open my coding course for 2 minutes. The end of dinner becomes the cue. It's simple, clear, and piggybacks on an existing routine. But just as important as adding good cues is removing bad ones. This is where digital minimalism comes in. Move all social media apps off your home screen into a folder. Turn off all non-essential notifications. The goal is to increase the friction for the bad habit and decrease it for the good one. So, to recap this step, make your learning cue obvious, specific, and visual. Stack it onto an existing habit and ruthlessly eliminate the cues for habits you want to break. You are now the architect of your own attention. Now for the tricky part. Step 2, manufacture a craving. A cue is useless without a craving. The craving isn't for the habit itself, but for the change in state it delivers. You don't crave scrolling Instagram. You crave the relief from boredom or the feeling of connection it provides. So, how do we create a craving for learning? We have to connect it to a desired outcome. Don't just say, I want to learn to code. That's boring. Instead, visualize the identity of the person you want to become. I want to be the kind of person who can build an app from scratch. Here's where it gets interesting. Recent research, like a 2026 study from the University of Technology, Sydney, suggests some compulsive behaviors aren't about a lack of control, but about excessive, misdirected control. We're not trying to suppress urges. We're trying to deliberately direct that powerful focus toward a better goal. To fuel the craving, use a temptation bundle. Pair something you want to do with something you need to do. Alex could say, I'll only listen to my favorite podcast while I'm reviewing my coding flashcards. The desire to listen to the podcast becomes intertwined with the act of studying. The craving is the why. It's the engine of the habit loop. Make it emotional. Make it about identity. Frame the benefits in a way that feels immediate and exciting. You're not just reading a chapter. You're forging a new version of yourself. Okay, we have our cue and our craving. Now for step 3, make the response effortless. This is where most people fail. They set a goal like study for 2 hours every night. That's a huge amount of friction. Your brain will resist. Instead, we use the 2-minute rule. Whatever your goal is, scale it down to something that takes less than 2 minutes to do. Read 1 page. Write 1 line of code. Open my language app. Anyone can do that. The point is not to make progress at first. The point is to master the art of showing up. Once you've started, it's much easier to continue. The inertia is in your favor. This is also where micro-learning comes in. It's a huge trend in 2026 for a reason. Taking just 5-minute learning breaks during your day can compound into massive knowledge over time, without the pressure of a huge study session. Another key is to focus on active learning. Don't just passively read or watch a video. Excited. Research shows active learning can raise exam scores by half a standard deviation and literally cut the odds of failure in half. It works because it forces your brain to engage. What does active learning look like? Try explaining a concept out loud to an empty room. Draw a mind map from memory. Create flashcards and test yourself. Anything that forces you to retrieve information from your brain instead of just putting it in. So the third step is all about reducing friction. Start with 2 minutes. Make it so easy you can't say no. And when you do act, make it active, not passive. You're building momentum, one tiny, effortless step at a time. This brings us to the final and most fun part of the loop. Step 4, hack the reward. The reward is what satisfies the craving. It tells your brain, hey, this activity was worthwhile. Let's do it again. For a habit to stick, the reward must be immediate. The problem with learning is that the ultimate reward, like getting a new job, is often months or years away. That's too long for your brain. We need to create an immediate, artificial reward to close the loop today. This is where we gamify the process. The simplest way is a habit tracker. Get a calendar and draw a big X over every day you complete your 2-minute habit. Your goal is not to break the chain. That visual proof of progress is incredibly satisfying. It's its own reward. Here's a little secret. Your brain loves to see progress. Create a visual measure. If you're learning a language, you could have a jar and add a marble for every 15 minutes you practice. Watching that jar fill up provides a tangible sense of accomplishment that reading a book doesn't. You can also tie a more tangible reward to the action. After you finish your study session, allow yourself 10 minutes of guilt-free social media, or watch an episode of your favorite show. The key is that the reward comes immediately after the desired behavior. So the reward closes the loop. It makes the entire process satisfying. Use a habit tracker, create a visual progress metric, and give yourself an immediate treat. This is how you train your brain to associate learning with pleasure. Now, let's talk about what happens when things go wrong. Because they will. You'll miss a day, you'll feel unmotivated. This is the troubleshooting phase. The most important rule is never miss twice.
Missing 1 day is an accident. Missing 2 days is the start of a new negative habit. If you miss a day, put all your energy into getting back on track the next day, even if it's just for your 2 minutes. The goal is to repair the chain as quickly as possible. What if you feel bored or hit a plateau? That's a sign you need to adjust the difficulty. If it's too easy, you'll be bored. If it's too hard, you'll get discouraged. Aim for what psychologists call the zone of proximal development, tasks that are just on the edge of your current abilities. So let's put it all together. You're going to build a learning habit that's as powerful as your social media habit. First, you engineer an obvious cue. Second, you manufacture a powerful craving by focusing on identity. Third,
you make the response effortless with the 2-minute rule. And fourth, you create an immediate reward to make it satisfying. Cue, craving, response, reward. This is the engine of behavior. For years, it's been used to capture your attention for profit. Now, you have the manual. You can take control and point that engine wherever you want to go. Here is your one action item for today. Don't try to build the whole system at once. Just pick one new skill you want to learn and apply the 2-minute rule. What is one tiny action you can take in less than 120 seconds to start? Do that one thing right after this video ends. Once you've mastered building the habit, the next step is optimizing how you learn. In my next video, we'll cover the most effective techniques for memory retention so you actually remember what you study. Thanks for watching.